We have come to the end of the questioning of Janet Williams at the Undercover Policing Inquiry. Janet Williams was Commander of Special Branch between November 2003 and December 2005. She at the end of the there was a number of breaches during the last section, which are things we can't talk about. But I think I can say that one of the breaches was the result of a further question, a Rule 10 question that was asked by a body, a state body, that then resulted in a request for a breach and a restriction order from that same body. Knowing full well, I don't know why they did this. I mean,
it was ridiculous,
insane,
and like the amount of questions that were still left that hadn't been asked, and that was still like the one they accepted that then caused a breach. It was just ridiculous.
Ridiculous indeed. Throughout the questioning of the last section, it's been similarly to how she was earlier. Janet Williams expressed some surprise at what she was being asked about, despite the fact that she was fully briefed. There was some further re-examination by her own lawyer, which pointed out that she'd had 17 lever arch files of disclosure and had to answer 839 questions, which would explain why she couldn't remember. You know, I mean, like, it just, ridiculous.
And even then, she didn't go for it. Like, he was giving her an obvious get out, and she was still kind of like, well, I think so. I was just shown some of these documents. And I was just like, oh, God.
What did you make of her in general?
Oh, she was vile. I was saying to someone earlier, I was just like, at least it was right. I have a variety of being irritated and just so angry at these officers in so many different ways. And she was a new one. I think in terms of gender equality, we've heard from so few women. It's nice to see that the one woman that we've heard from recently, it was as wild and as horrible and awful as all the rest of them. So, you know, we got our gender balance properly. But she was so utterly unapologetic, you know, like for everything. Like, she just couldn't see what they were doing wrong. She couldn't take responsibility for anything, like things that she should have seen, things she should have done. I mean, when she did this, I don't know whether it was, you covered it in the last break, because I can't remember when she did this sort of long tirade of like all the things they could have done differently that wasn't really anything, just, they should have seen a psychiatrist more. And that would have stopped them getting lonely. So that was her thing. Like, these abusers, these men who abused women in these relationships, they were lonely.
I mean, that was particularly offensive, especially since she actually named it as sexual abuse only just before then, which I was like quite glad to hear. She was taken through these reviews, these numerous reviews, the Walton review by Richard Walton, who we heard from only a few days ago, the Crane review. And I mean, it was pointed out to her that despite the fact that she commissioned these reviews, none of them had got to the core of what was actually going wrong with the SDS. Why was that? How come that these reviews that she'd commissioned didn't manage to get? It's they didn't know. And well, surely the point of these reviews is to look into these things. So, her terms of reference was so tight; it wasn't included in the terms of reference. And anyway, if she'd have known about the sexual misconduct, that's not what she would have done. She wouldn't have had a review. And she was asked, "Well, what would you have done?" To which she said, "Well, I haven't had thought about that. What I've been thinking about is what I would have done in order to be able to be in a position to have known." And then that's where she came out with this incredibly long list you mentioned, none of which was pertinent. I didn't feel at all.
None of it was. And this thing about the terms of reference, she had to go about the Crane review because she said, the terms of reference. Sorry.
We are joined by Kate Wilson.
Piss off. Oh no, you can like there, not anything. But yeah, with the terms of reference, she said that I didn't like the Crane review because it didn't stick to my terms of reference. And if I set a review, I want people to follow my terms of reference. But then the problem with the review was that it couldn't find anything because the terms of reference weren't right. It's just like, we can't have it both ways. Like, sort it out.
One of the things she did say in her long list of things that she would have done is
just being sure that there was a restriction order over part around that time.
Okay, well, I'll skip that just and go on to what Mitting said at the end. I mean, there's been so many restriction orders, I'm not sure that I can. But anyway, Mitting asked her, he said, if I've understood your evidence, then you weren't really focused on the events of the past. And she leapt on that. I mean, the dynamic between her and Mitting was absolutely
disgusting.
gross. I mean, there's a point, I don't know if it was cut by a restriction order, where she decides she doesn't want to ask a question and turns to Mitting and says, "Sir, do I have to answer that?" And he turns to the barrister and said, "I think we've taken that as far as we should go." I mean, it was fucking class privilege in action. It was really, really grim. And there was another remarkably sycophantic exchange at the end. Where he said, you were focused on the events of the past, and she jumps on it and says, "Yes, absolutely. I wasn't worried about the events of the past. I was worried about current and future policing, and
bombs going off.
There were bombs going off in London. We had the G8. We had this. We had that." And I'm thinking, yeah, we had the G8, and there were your officers were sexually abusing women all over that site.
Yeah.
And you're talking about it like these were things of the past that had nothing to do with you. And Mitting was lapping it up. And that's because they haven't looked at tranche 4.
Yes.
This woman was, Carlo Saraki came up. That all happened on her watch.
She couldn't remember him.
No, couldn't remember him. And there were really no pointed questions asked about the sexual relationships that took place while she was signing off on these deployments. HN60 is another one. HN60 was living with HN3. At some point, she made the point that if there were more sources of information, then you'd have found out. Bollocks. HN3 was living with HN60 while he had the relationship that he's only just owned up to having. And HN3 didn't tell us.
No,
at no point.
Oh, no, he apparently didn't see any of them.
But HN118 did. HN118 told his managers that MPOIU officers at the G8 were shagging activists, and all of this happened on her watch. None of it was put to her. It was utterly sycophantic, and honestly, I don't think it was council's fault.
No, I mean,
council, I think, did a very good job. I didn't have particularly high hopes, I have to say, for today's questioning, but I think she did a very good job.
I mean, it has been an incredibly short session. I mean, we started at 11. We're finishing now. It's like 5:30. Because of the breaches and things, I think we can take out a good hour of the day because there was so much waiting around because of the breaches. I mean, that's a short day by any measure. Yeah. And this is a very significant witness who was in charge of the entire operation for, admittedly, only 2 years and 1 month, but quite an important period of time in that, and oversaw two major reviews, which should have brought up a lot more than they did, who was aware, was clearly from what we've seen with the documented evidence of gold group meetings she was in, of meetings with lawyers that she was at, where her views are recorded, often in her own handwriting, had significant knowledge of things she is now denying knowing about.
And I will go on to say that she didn't just oversee 2 significant reviews, because there were reviews of systems of structures of the MPOIU at the same time going on her watch. I think March 2005, one of them reported. So it was, she had a hand in everything.
Yeah, and I think she's so, I think because to start with, she was just like, well, if I had my decision logs, it would be so much easier. Then she was presented with them and then couldn't deny them, and then got a bit flustered, and then just kept going, well, I don't know, and I would have done that. And she's clearly seen all this stuff, and she was so hoping that she could just bluster her way through it because those decision logs weren't there.
And she was almost right.
Yeah,
she was almost right because she did have the chair on her side.
Yeah.
I'm so angry about that, because particularly because he's going to be reporting. He hasn't heard the full evidence. We haven't been given the full evidence. That we weren't allowed to put any questions to her about the MPOIU. And, he made the point, can't tell you what's going to happen in the distant future because I won't be doing it. I'm retiring. He's going to be writing the report. And it may be the only report that this inquiry ever produces. I am so angry.
I mean, it's particularly galling. I mean, we've really seen this. We saw it yesterday as well. The way in which the chair behaves towards those who he considers his class equals, people of significance, essentially. He has such a deferential mode. The way that he spoke to Richard Walton at the end, telling him to put his mind at rest. I mean, very much. It was the same tone today. Don't you? I know you did well. I know you meant well. I know you did as well as you could in the circumstances. We never had any of this towards any of the victims of the Spy Cops abuses. we're in situations where he's made it clear that he believes that's what happened, and he's not disputing, the evidence. But there's no sense of him being reassuring towards anybody else. But these people have significant
in fact,
influence.
quite the contrary. I mean, you have things like his points made at the end of Lindsay's evidence,
right? And he asked Helen Steele.
Appalling. That was just awful.
Yeah. It's very incredibly frustrating, and I mean, like as you say, given that he is going to report, I would imagine the majority of the report is already written, and we are seeing glimpses of what the tone he is going to take with the senior management on it. And I mean, given that so many of the senior management have pointed towards, well, it's the individual officers on the ground that was the problem. You kind of feel that maybe he's going to go with that as the kind of tone of it generally. And
no questions were put to him about the fact that Janet Williams has said that she rejects the IPT ruling and there was nothing wrong with her Reaper authorizations. Nothing was asked about that. I just can't believe. And, there was a hell of a lot wrong with her Reaper authorizations, and David Van Ness apologized for that yesterday. I mean, just the arrogance of these bastards.
And then we also had questions about HN3 covering Jason Bishop's involvement in criminality as well. We got all that criminal damage at arms trade offices that he was authorized to do, that she would have been the ones to sign the authorizations. But apparently we don't get questions on that. Oh, and the other thing, when she started talking about she talked about the Kafkaesque redactions and all this discussion was like, yeah, welcome to our world. Think how that feels.
Not nice being on the other side of the redactions, is it, Janet?
No. And it's like, when there is just so little self-awareness when someone is talking, it's just so it was so staggering her lack of self-awareness of what survivors have gone through, of what the unit did. Like, she didn't think, she was banding around things like, oh, well, I think it was right that we had a unit that investigates extremism. But what is extremism? That's amorphous term that the police use, politicians use. It's not legally defined, and it definitely wasn't legally defined.
And she's sitting in the room saying that to the faces of the people that were being spied on. I mean, that's us. That is.
Yeah.
And
you know what? We didn't want to keep fueling genocides. We wanted to stop the planet burning before it was on fire, like it is now. All those dangerous extremist views.
Remember that as you watch the world fucking burn. Janet Williams signed off on spying on Climate Camp.
And trying to destroy our movements. They set out to destroy our movements.
Yeah.
Because we were extremists.
Environmentalism was fair game.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the most significant things that she admitted today, was right at the beginning, where she said, yes, she came to understand that the point of the SDS was disruption of groups, which I think is incredibly significant. I think it's something which hasn't been addressed by the majority of people who've been put to.
A lot of them have denied it as well. I think it was Dell, wasn't it, who denied it completely.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's been painfully obvious to us right from the very start when we discovered that there was undercover officers in our groups, that was actually what they were engaged with doing. And the more we compared notes with each other, the more we were convinced of that. And we've had to endure, officer after officer, manager after manager, denying that was the actual point of it all, when in reality, of course, it was.
And it's clear in the documents as well. They say it. They say, we're looking for how we exploit this bit of information. And when those documents were put to the managers and stuff like that, we're like, oh no, we wouldn't have done that. But it's clear.
Well, and she wasn't asked about the HM118, the Operation Dalliance, and that she wasn't asked about Dell saying, well, I put all that stuff in about disruption just to reassure Janet Williams. None of that was pointed out.
She even said that she knew who the officer was. She was really aware of him because she was concerned about him because of Operation Dalliance. She remembers it really well. This is an ideal opportunity to explore that because she's offering it up almost, yet it wasn't explored at all.
But I do think it's really important to say, when they talk about public disorder and they talk about what we did, J18 1999 was a great day.
Yes.
But in terms of public disorder, compared to the evacuation of the entire city of Bordeaux, it is pretty low-level stuff.
Very low level.
I mean, really, the national security implications of some of what the these officers did, and the ideological position that they have taken over the last 50 years and counting is a really big deal. I'm so angry.
We've had some comments. One here from Mr. Abney. I couldn't follow most of today's hearings due to other commitments, but I'm very glad she seemed visibly annoyed.
She did. She was visibly annoyed.
Another one.
Possibly
less
not as
glad of the
annoyed as me.
despicable obsequiousness between herself and Mitting. It was really quite galling, that. Kathleen Quinn, her narrowing eyes are less performative, contemplative scrutiny than sheer contempt for the process. No one is convinced by these thespian performances. Yeah, I mean, there is a blatant disregard for the whole instrument of public inquiries by so many of the witnesses. I think She Williams was incredibly rude to Simcox today, who did well, especially since the chair was joining the witness in ganging up on her at times.
She did
never
very,
seen
very
that
well.
before.
No, I've never seen that.
Another comment,
and it wouldn't have happened to Bob.
No, good God, no. James Simpson again. Shame we lost the broadcast again for the last hour. The dynamic between the Weldon, Fuller, Crane reviews, I think, could have been revealing if the questions were allowed to be more probing. Absolutely, I think there was a lot more left on the table, if you like. Sheer deception, says Kathleen Quinn. Lady Macbeth. Fair play.
I think that's a good note to end on.
Yes, I think so as well. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow. Tomorrow we've got McKinney. Yes, that should be an interesting day. I think it's an early start. I'm so out now. I can't remember.
Please no.
But
I can't cope with an early start.
Yes, but we will be back with a preview full of McKinney in the morning. Please join us for that. Thanks to everybody who's liked, shared, and thanks to everybody who's commented. More of that, please, in future.
Yep.
Bye for now.
Yep.